In the present day, researchers in the Arctic Circle uncover the buried wreckage of a large, wing-shaped aircraft. While investigating the aircraft's interior, two of the researchers discover a frozen, circular object with a red, white and blue encased in ice. In March 1942, Hydra forces led by Johann Schmidt invade a stone church in Norway, seeking a mysterious cosmic artifact known as the Tesseract, which possesses untold powers. Upon discovering the true Tesseract, Schmidt has the church keeper who guarded it killed, along with everyone else in the village. At a recruiting station in Brooklyn, Steve Rogers, a 20-something, 90 pounds, 5-foot-tall asthmatic eagerly awaits the opportunity to enlist in the United States Army. The Army doctor gives a once-over to Steve's medical file, which reads like that of a 90-year-old man, and rejects Steve's application as the military 4F, as this is his fourth failed attempt to enlist. Depressed, Steve goes to a war fair with his friend, Bucky Barnes. He watches as Playboy inventor Howard Stark unsuccessfully demonstrates a flying car. Steve breaks away from the group and goes to another recruiting station. Bucky catches up with him and asks how Steve intends to forge his application this time. Unbeknownst to them both, Dr. Abraham Erskine, while passing by, eavesdrops on their conversation. He is fascinated by the gumption of Steve. Bucky wishes Steve good luck on his latest application, and Steve heads into the recruiting station for his 5th physical. Inside, Steve sits on an examination table and grows nervous when Dr. Erskine enters the room. Dr. Erskine has all of Steve's prior applications on file. Concerned by Steve's failed applications, Erskine tests his character by asking if his insistence on applying for military service is driven purely by a desire to kill Nazis. The young man sincerely reveals that he is not a killer at heart, but does not like bullies regardless of their origin. He also shows little concern when Erskine reveals that he is German by birth. Won over by Steve's strong will and unwavering conviction, Erskine enlists Rogers as a candidate of Project Rebirth, a super soldier experiment being conducted by the Strategic Scientific Reserve under the supervision of Erskine, Chester Phillips, and Peggy Carter. During his basic training, Phillips is unconvinced by Erskine's claims that Rogers is the right person for the procedure, but relents after seeing Rogers commit an act of self-sacrificing bravery. The night before the treatment, Erskine reveals to Rogers that Schmidt underwent an imperfect version of the procedure and suffered negative side effects due to his inner ambition for power and obsession with becoming a superior man. However, he reassures Rogers that he chose him because he believed Rogers was an inherently good man and one that, because he had been weak his whole life, would not lose respect for the strength he would gain. In a secret military installation high in the Alps, Johann Schmidt brings the glowing cube to Dr. Zola, his hydro weapon specialist. The cube's seemingly limitless power enables Schmidt and Dr. Zola to power unstoppable energy guns and cannons, intending to use the power to fuel Zola's inventions. Meanwhile, Schmidt, having discovered Erskine's location, dispatches an assassin to kill him. Peggy and Steve enter the antique shop and exchange passcodes with an old woman manning the register and descend into a secret military bunker concealed within. Peggy leads Steve to the heart of the bunker, where they find Dr. Erskine preparing a medical capsule along with Howard Stark and Colonel Phillips rubbing elbows with senators and dignitaries. Steve is told to remove his shirt and sit in the capsule. Stark describes that the procedure will first mean injecting muscle regenerators into Rogers' major muscle groups, which will then be bombarded with Vita rays. Erskine has made no secret of the pain Steve will endure, but promises he'll come out stronger. Carter bids Steve good luck and joins Phillips in the overhead viewing chamber. Erskine's serum is injected into Steve's muscles and Steve is enclosed within the Vita ray capsule. The capsule glows brightly. Steve yells in pain but also tells them to continue, and the procedure is quickly completed. When the capsule is shut down, Steve comes out a foot taller and 100 pounds heavier with solid muscle, which is just the most superficial aspects of his body artificially raised to the maximum human potential. Everybody, including Phillips, celebrates the success of the procedure and descends from the viewing chamber to congratulate Erskine. After witnessing the success of the experiment, one of the attendees reveals himself to be Schmidt's assassin, Heinz Kruger. The assassin stays behind, placing a small satchel on a chair. Moments later, the viewing gallery explodes. Kruger descends the stairs and fatally shoots Dr. Erskine, killing him. Kruger grabs the last vial of the super soldier serum and escapes the facility into the streets of New York. Rogers runs after Kruger, using his new strength and stamina to run down Kruger's car on foot. Despite attempting to escape in a submarine, Rogers manages to catch Kruger, but the vial of super soldier serum is broken in the process, and the assassin immediately commits suicide by cyanide pill before he can be interrogated for information. With Erskine dead and the super soldier formula lost, the SSR is ordered to join the war and engage Hydra directly. However, Phillips decides to leave Rogers behind and allows scientists to study him in an attempt to rediscover Erskine's formula. Senator Brand approaches Rogers and instead offers him the chance to tour the nation for the USO to promote war donations, using his image as the strong, ideal soldier as a symbol for the public to rally behind, which Rogers accepts. During his work for the USO, Rogers performed in scripted stage shows as the star-spangled character Captain America. As Rogers continues touring across the country, Captain America gains great popularity among the public, leading to increasingly more elaborate shows as well as making appearances in film strips, comic books, and other memorabilia. Although Rogers is happy to be contributing towards the war effort, he grows increasingly weary of being paraded around while not being able to have a more direct role alongside those actively fighting. Meanwhile, Schmidt unveils his new Tesseract-powered weaponry to 3 Nazi officers sent to oversee his operation. They ridicule Schmidt, saying that the Nazi party no longer takes him and Hydra seriously due to his obsession with magic and the occult, and playfully refer to him as the Red Skull. The Führer, it's the Red Skull. I've been intelligent long enough. A name that infuriates Schmidt. Schmidt takes the 3 to his weapons lab, where they are shown his unstoppable energy weapons and a strategic map of Europe dotted with targets. One of the 3 notices a target hovering over Berlin and confronts Schmidt. Schmidt quickly vaporizes the 3 Nazi officers. Schmidt announces that Hydra has disbanded from the Nazi party and is now enemies with the world. Schmidt uses this moment to declare his secession from the Third Reich, claiming that Hydra could grow no further in Adolf Hitler's shadow and will now follow his agenda. Hydra continued to siphon energy from the Tesseract, using the stored energy to create a variety of weapons and integrated it into a range of vehicles and other technology, quickly giving the faction the potential to become a major threat to the war front and the world at large. In November 1943, while performing for active servicemen as well as encountering his colleagues from the SSR, Rogers learns that Barnes' unit was lost in a battle against Hydra. Despite Phillips' insistence on the futility of the situation, Rogers refuses to believe that Barnes is dead and becomes determined to mount a solo rescue attempt, receiving help from Carter and Howard Stark, who flies them both over the battlefield in his private plane. Steve surmises that Stark and Carter have a relationship and bashfully withholds his feelings for her. Just as anti-aircraft guns from Hydra begin firing on Stark's plane, Steve parachutes in, while the other 2 escape back to safety. Steve stealthily makes his way into the Hydra base, taking out numerous guards in the process. Rogers manages to sneak into Hydra's